more serious issue. The Patriot Act, I was a part of the Judiciary Committee, and when the Patriot Act was introduced, we went through it on the Judiciary Committee, and we spent hours marking the bill up, which is what the process is called, markup. When you take a bill that's been introduced, and the Committee of Jurisdiction strikes lines through this and adds lines there and takes this out and adds this semicolon and all that sort of thing. We spent hours marking the bill up. After we marked it up, something very, very unusual happened in the Judiciary Committee, where you have the very left of the left wing of the Democrat Party and the very right of the right wing of the Republican Party serve on the Judiciary Committee. Probably the most contentious committee in all of Congress, the House Judiciary Committee. The Patriot Act passed out of the Judiciary Committee unanimously. It was one of the very few times that Barney Frank and John Hostedler agreed on anything. But we did. And then it went to the floor of the House a few days later and passed the House there. And as we marked it up, I made sure, as we all did on the Judiciary Committee, that we did not violate any civil liberties in the markup of that bill and in the legislation of that bill. And so I've talked about this a lot over the past 2001, over the past 8.5 years. I have never been in a setting where anyone could tell me what provision of the Patriot Act specifically violates the Constitution. And I am open to that discussion, but I have not been able to find one time where that's been the case. Because in my opinion, it doesn't. And as a result of our work, it doesn't. Yes?
So this is kind of going back to some of the questions about the military. And so just a summary of what you said so far, and then the question will follow. But so basically you said you didn't support us going into Iraq. You don't support...
I what?
You did not vote for going into Iraq.
Yes.
You didn't... you don't think that Iran is the problem. So where should our... Do you think that there is any place in the world where our military should be now? And also, this is kind of a more general question in regards to the funding of the military. I don't have my pocket constitution with me, but I'm pretty sure that Madison was opposed to a standing military in peacetime. How do you feel about that? And how do you reconcile that with some of your statements about maintaining a strong military?
Well, the question is, with regard to what I said earlier, where should we be in the world? Where should our military be currently in the world? And with regard to what Madison said about standing armies, how do I feel about a standing army in a time of peace? First of all, I think there are very few places that we should be in the United States, in the world today. The idea of maintaining a strong Navy, a Navy that we are close coming down to only 300 ships. Ronald Reagan wanted a 600-ship Navy. We never got there, but it was something like 540, 550 ships. And we could maintain a presence all around the world. It was referred to sometimes as 90,000 tons or 100,000 tons of diplomacy, an aircraft carrier out there. And so that we could stand 13 miles off anywhere and be concerned about what was going on in that country, and they would literally recognize our concern there. And we could change habits, change actions with a couple of carrier battle groups present. So I believe that we have the capability today to be many places through our Navy, and we don't need to be in nearly that many places with a footprint on land. And so I would, when I was in the House of Representatives, I traveled to South Korea and to Japan to look at what we were doing in South Korea, especially in the land partnership plan to reduce our footprint in South Korea. I think that's a good direction to go all over the world. Now, that being said, Madison's discussion in the Federalist Papers about standing armies are interesting because, like a good politician, he comes down on both sides of the issue. When he looks at the legions of Rome specifically, and he talks about the fact that the legions of Rome, as a result of their presence and their numbers, for many centuries, deterred aggression from outside, and which is the idea of peace through strength. Now, the Roman Empire was not a peaceful empire, I'm not saying that, but what Ronald Reagan believed was a significant investment in military might is an insurance policy that deters aggression. And not only deters aggression, but in the case of the Soviet Union, caused the demise of what he earlier in the 1980s referred to as the evil empire. So the Soviet Union ultimately concluded that they could not compete with the United States military investment, and they broke down, and the wall literally fell down in Germany. So I believe the same thing, that we should make that investment to deter future aggression. And while Madison talked about how the legions in Rome deterred aggression from outside, he also recognized that they could have in their construction have the seeds for the demise of the republic and when the Roman army crossed the Rubicon, that became reality. So there is that possibility that could happen in the future, and we must be diligent. But in my opinion, the way we maintain that diligence is by civilian control of the military, the United States Congress effectively controlling the military and the commander-in-chief controlling it as well. And I think that was the trade-off that Madison made when he said, Rome proved that you have to have a strong military, a strong professional military especially, in order to deter aggression from outside. But you must always be vigilant so that the military does not acquire the power to forcefully work in the United States, and that's why we have in place, for example, posse comitatus, a federal law that does not permit U.S. military personnel to enforce domestic law, to be a part of domestic law enforcement, part of that legal framework.